Have UFOs crashed on Earth? Have we made alien contact? Is the US government covering up a massive UFO conspiracy? Behind me is one of the most secret military bases in the world, deep in the heart of the Nevada desert. The Groom Lake test site, also known as Area 51 or Dreamland, has been home to US stealth projects since the Second World War. However, in recent years, a more disturbing story has emerged, and that is that the government is back engineering recovered alien spacecraft. Tonight, based on evidence given to us by top military personnel, engineers and scientists, we can exclusively reveal the UFO technology that's being developed behind me. It's a story the US government has tried to cover up for half a century. The truth behind Dreamland.
I am convinced, based on my research and the individuals whom I've had contact in the U.S. intelligence community, that the U.S. government does indeed have craft that meet the description of many of the UFO reports.
The whole aim of the project was to take these craft, or the one in particular that I was working on, and try and duplicate its systems and subsystems with earthly materials.
I'm convinced beyond doubt that we have recovered aircraft, alien vehicles, that we have made contact with aliens, that we are communicating with them in some way or form, and that we have vehicles and bodies in preservation.
I was at that moment standing on the deck of the radar van. It was nighttime, and I was looking up in the sky because there were saucers up there.
Were there any alien bodies recovered?
No bodies. There were 4 live, feeling good guys.
4 live extraterrestrials?
4 live, feeling good extraterrestrial type individuals, yes.
They are here, whoever they are, wherever they came from, whatever they're doing. Other intelligences are messing around on our planet.
I think that too many people's butts are on the line with this, that they lied to us too long, that a lot of people have stolen legitimate national security money to keep this cover-up going, that they have perpetuated disinformation schemes on the American public, probably on the British public.
The Air Force knows that there was a crash saucer, there were alien bodies recovered, that there have been aircraft that have gone up to chase UFOs and have not come back. They know that we're dealing with the biggest story of the millennium.
I Nevadaöknen, cirka 13 mil från Las Vegas, ligger Nellisbasen. Där finns något som heter område 51. Basen upprättades på 50-talet under Trumans tid som president. Det var en ytterst hemlig flygbas där man utvecklade och provflög nya flygplanstyper. Här utvecklades de mest avancerade efterkrigsplanen. Det var också här som stealthbombaren utvecklades och provflögs.
This is an area that has been known but officially denied for many decades. We go back quite a ways into the 40s and 50s with the development of the U-2 spy plane, the SR-71. All of our super secret aircraft have been developed and test flown out in this particular area.
The A-12 from its inception through its retirement was operated out of only 2 locations. Area 51 at Groom Lake was its original home. The first aircraft was delivered there in January of 62, and the last airplane left on June 21st, 1968.
Amerikanska flygvapnet förnekar att område 51 existerar, trots att det finns både filmer och ryska satellitbilder av det, där man tydligt ser hangarer och startbanor. Trots att basen officiellt inte existerar har den hela tiden utvidgats sedan 50-talet. Hundratals arbetare flygs dagligen till och från basen. Med en personal av den storleksordningen antyder de få byggnader som finns ovan mark att den egentliga verksamheten sker under jord. Säkerheten på basen är rigorös. Sedan 50-talet har militären spärrat av mer och mer av det omkringliggande området. Avspärrningarna runt område 51 sträcker sig nu över 4 mil.
The secret status of the base is very, very well preserved. And even if people are talking about the operation of the U-2s back in the 1950s, 40 years ago, they're still not allowed to identify the base by name or by location. All they can say is it is a remote facility.
This place is an old anachronism from the Cold War. This is a place that harkens back to the old days, and because the military is continuing to treat it as a top secret facility that doesn't exist, it attracts attention. Naturally, everyone wants to know what goes on here.
There is no question that the facility is there, that the government has said very little in the past about it, that it has the right to test things like the U-2, like the SR-71, like the stealth aircraft. People forget the stealth aircraft, over $10 million spent on developing it, and more than a decade before its existence was even announced. That's what you do out at Groom Lake. Now, the real question, I suppose, is, are there any flying saucers out there?
Filmteamet hyrde ett plan för att studera basen uppifrån. De flög på 3000 meters höjd och var cirka 1,5 kilometer från det avspärrade området när kontrolltornet lät förstå att de kommit för nära.
We're just curious, is there any activity today out at the Groom Lake area?
Any activity where, sir?
Out at the Groom Lake area.
Lake Mead 69, I don't have any of that information available.
Dude, control on guard. When working Reveille Mola, squawk altitude, acknowledge with an IDID.
The Nellis approach controller now is just getting a little concerned that we're getting close now.
We've just been buzzed by 2 F-16 fighters. They passed our bow at about 800 to 1,000 miles an hour. These guys aren't messing around. They don't want us to be here. In fact, there's another one just gone by the bow there. They're either trying to get us out of the area quickly or force us to land. And there goes another one.
Well, that was really close, right off the right side. I'd say that was within a mile and a half. Oh, you can see him, boy. That was amazing. And they have TCAS on board, so they definitely had radar contact with us. That was really close.
In 1989, one man blew the lid off Dreamland. His name was Bob Lazar, and he claimed to have worked at the Groom Lake site, back engineering recovered alien spacecraft.
The base is against the side of a mountain, or small mountain, big hill. There are 9 hangar doors, and the hangar doors are not just shiny metal out in the desert. They are painted or sprayed with a sand texture to them, and from what I can ascertain, to prevent satellites from photographing the installation, so they look like the mountain range. It was pretty effective from what I could see. On the first occasion when I drove out there, all the hangar doors were closed, but at close range you could tell that they were doors and they would open. We drove around the left side of the installation, and there was the main entrance in there, and went through some gates and a security check and went inside, and it seemed like a typical government building. The work that I did basically entailed back engineering the power and propulsion system, and I opted to start with the power, the reactor that ran the craft. With the clearance that I had, that was known as Majestic clearance, there were only 22 people at S4 with that clearance to work on the craft.
Robert Lazar uppger att han arbetade på S4 som låg i område 51 vid Papoose, en kort sträcka från Groom Lake.
When I was brought in by bus, normally we had gone around to the left side of the installation and entered the door there. And for the first time, one of the hangar doors, the one on the end, was open. The bus drove up and we stopped there, and clear as day in the hangar, taking up almost all the hangar, was the disc. Looked like something right out of a science fiction movie. And we stopped, got out, and for the first time I was led in through that door. And as I walked in there, I thought, well, this is the new advanced aircraft we've been working on, and this is why people keep seeing flying saucers, because it's ours and we've just been testing it probably for all these years. And when I walked alongside it, I ran my hand on it. I say it's metal because it was cold, so I just assume it was some sort of metal. And in fact, by the hatch that was taken off, there was an opening there, and it had a little backwards American flag stuck on it. So I was positive it was something we had manufactured. I was allowed on the craft on one occasion to see the placement of these systems in case it was important to their operation. So I was, of course, escorted in the craft, and it was obviously made to be piloted by something smaller than the average human being. Very cramped in there. There was a sub-level where a little collapsing floor member opened, and I could stick my head and upper torso down underneath with a flashlight to see how the gravity amplifiers hung upside down. Looked around the placement of the 3 seats, about 1/3 to 1/4 the size of a normal human seat.